The rain had stopped, but the grass still held its weight. Julian West felt it soak through his Italian leather shoes as he cut across the park. His mind churning through acquisition numbers and property valuations, then he saw her. A silhouette against the wet ground, barely visible in the shadows. Not sleeping. Collapsed. He ran. "Ms., wake up." His voice came out sharper than intended. He knelt beside her, his hand hovering over her shoulder. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy. Her lips moved. "Please don't take me back there." The words were a whisper, broken and desperate. Julian's chest tightened. He unwrapped his scarf and placed it around her trembling shoulders, then shrugged off his coat and draped it over her body. "You're safe," he said, though he had no idea if it was true. She was ice cold, her skin pale as bone. When he lifted her, she weighed almost nothing, and her head fell against his shoulder like she'd been holding herself together for too long. "Don't let them find me," she murmured against his chest. Julian's jaw clenched. He didn't know who they were, but the terror in her voice was real. His estate was 10 minutes away. The staff rushed toward him the moment he entered, eyes wide with shock. "Guest room. Call Dr. Mason. Now." He carried her up the marble staircase himself, laid her down on the bed with a gentleness that surprised him. She murmured something incoherent, her fingers curling into the blanket. Dr. Mason arrived quickly. He examined her with efficient precision while Julian stood by the door, arms crossed, watching every movement. "Exhaustion, hydration, a bruising," the doctor said finally. "No life-threatening injuries, but she's been through something. Trauma, possibly. Keep her warm, hydrated, and under observation." Julian nodded. "I'll take care of her." Once the doctor left, the room fell silent, except for her soft breathing. Julian sat in the armchair across from the bed, elbows on his knees, hands steepled. He built empires. He controlled boardrooms. But this woman, fragile and broken, had walked into his world without permission and cracked something open inside him as he adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. His hand brushed her neck. He froze. There, just beneath her hairline, was a small tattoo, delicate, stylized, and unmistakable. Julian's blood ran cold. He recognized that symbol. A variant of the logo used by Caldwell Travel Group, his fiercest competitor. The same company under investigation for exploitation and unethical labor practices. The same rival who'd tried to destroy him more than once. He stared at her sleeping face. Innocent, vulnerable, or was she? His mind raced. Was this a coincidence? A trap? Or just a broken soul who stumbled into his path by fate? Julian sat back in the chair, his eyes never leaving her. "Who are you?" He whispered into the silence. And more importantly, what storm had just walked into his life? 3 days passed like slow breaths. She woke on the second morning with lavender scented, sheets against her skin and sunlight warming her face. The room was elegant, quiet, unfamiliar. Julian entered with a tray. "Water. Toast. Fruit. You're awake," he said, his voice controlled. She nodded, her throat dry. "Thank you." He sat across from her, studying her with eyes that missed nothing. "Can you tell me your name?" A pause. Then, softly, "Eva. Just Eva. Do you remember what happened?" She shook her head. "Pieces. A car. Someone yelling. Then cold. You were unconscious in the park. I brought you here. You're safe." Her eyes met his. "Why would you help a stranger?" "Because you needed help." She looked away. "You don't even know if I'm dangerous." "I'm still watching," he said, no malice in his tone. Just truth. Over the following days, Eva moved through the house like a ghost, learning to be solid again. She helped Mrs. Glenn with herbs in the garden. She learned to fold dumplings with Mateo in the kitchen, her fingers clumsy, but her laughter real. The staff loved her. Julian watched from a distance, his walls still high but cracking. On the fourth evening, found her in the garden at dusk, dirt on her hands, hair pulled back loosely. She looked like she belonged, but belonging didn't erase questions. Later, as she passed his study, Julian looked up. Her hair shifted, and he saw it again. That mark, Eva? She stopped, turning. Yes, your neck. May I see something? Confused, she brushed her hair aside. There it was. The tattoo. Small, delicate, damning. Julian stood, his expression unreadable. He walked to his bookshelf and pulled out a binder, flipping it open to a clipped article. On the page was a logo. Corporate, polished Harmony Trails. A program under Caldwell Global, his rival. He turned the page toward her. This symbol. It's from one of their pilot projects. Southeast Asia, exploitative labor disguised as humanitarian tourism. Eva's face drained of color. I didn't know. You said you didn't remember. I don't, she whispered, her hands trembling. Maybe I volunteered. I don't know why it's there. I just know I hate it. Her voice cracked. Every time I see it, I feel ashamed. The raw honesty in her words cut through him like glass. Julian wanted to believe her. Wanted to trust that she wasn't planted. Wasn't another pawn sent by Jason Caldwell to infiltrate his life and destroy him from the inside? But the mark was there. Permanent. Proof. He said nothing. Eva excused herself quietly. Retreating to her room, Julian stood alone in his study, staring at the symbol in the binder. Then, at the empty hallway. His heart wanted to. Protect her. His mind screamed to send her. Away. And he had no idea which instinct would destroy him. First, Julian couldn't pinpoint when it began, when Eva stopped being a stranger and became someone he listened for in the mornings. When her quiet laughter in the kitchen started to feel like home, she moved through his world with gentle purpose. She listened to people like their words mattered. She helped the gardener prune roses. She learned recipes from Mateo. She read in the solarium with her legs tucked beneath her, sunlight catching the gold in her hair. The staff adored her, and Julian, despite every wall he'd built, was falling, but doubts still gnawed at him. He reached out quietly to old contacts. Former employees, village leaders, humanitarian networks. He told himself it was protection. For both of them, Eva had no idea. She continued living with quiet grace, helping where she could, reaching for memories that slipped through her fingers like water. One evening at dinner, she spoke about helping a stranger in the market earlier that day. I don't know why I knew what to do, she said softly. It just felt right, like I'd done it before. Julian watched her across the table, something inside him softening. Still, he waited. For proof. For clarity, then everything changed. It was a rainy afternoon. Eva was in the greenhouse tending herbs when she saw him. A man. Across the hedge. Camera in hand? Not staff. Not familiar. Her chest seized. She dropped the watering can and ran. Not toward the house. Into the woods. An hour later, Mrs. Glenn called Julian, her voice frantic. She's gone. She just ran. Julian's heart stopped. He ran into the storm. Shouting her name, rain soaking through his clothes, branches tearing at his face. At the edge of the lake, he found her, sitting on a bench, small, shaking, soaked to the bone. Eva, he breathed. Relief and fury tangled in his chest. She didn't look at him. Her voice was hollow. I should have known. Known what? That I'd ruin this too. Julian knelt in front of her, rain streaming down his face. What are you talking about? Her eyes finally met his, and they were broken. I remember, she whispered. His stomach dropped. Now it was part of it. Harmony Trails. They told us we were helping people. Building schools. Feeding children. Her voice cracked. But it was a lie. We were props. Photo ops for donors, while locals worked for nothing. Children separated from families. I didn't know at first. But when I found out, I tried to leave. She wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. You wouldn't let me? Said I'd signed contracts. Threatened me. I ran. I've been running ever since. Julian's jaw clenched. Who sent the man with the camera? I don't know. Maybe Caldwell. Maybe someone else. It doesn't matter. She looked at him, tears mixing with rain. You should send me away. before I destroy everything you've built. Julian's hands cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. You're not destroying anything. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. They'll come for me, and they'll hurt you to get to me. Let them try. Julian, please. No. His voice was steel. You're not running anymore. Not from them. Not from me. Her breath hitched. Why? He didn't answer with words. He kissed her. Fierce, desperate, a promise in the rain. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers, because I'm not losing you. But even as he said it, a chill ran down his spine, because somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching, and the storm was only beginning. The call came 2 days later. Julian was in his study when his phone buzzed. Unknown number, he answered. Mr. West. The voice was smooth, familiar. Jason Caldwell. I believe we need to talk about your house guest. Julian's blood turned to ice. I have nothing to say to you. Oh, I think you do. Especially when it concerns Eva Mitchell. Or should I say, Eva Caldwell. My niece. The words hit like a gunshot. Julian's hand tightened around the phone. You're lying. Am I? Ask her yourself. Better yet, ask her why she really came to you. Caldwell's laugh was cold. You think it was fate? Coincidence? She's been feeding me information for weeks, Julian. Every contract. Every deal. Every weakness. She has no memory. Is that what she told you? Another laugh. The amnesia act. Classic. I'll admit I didn't think you'd fall for it. But here we are. Julian's chest felt like it was caving in. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know exactly how you lost. Eva did her job perfectly. By the time you realize how much damage she's done, it'll be too late. Consider this a courtesy call. From one businessman to another, the line went dead. Julian sat frozen. The phone still pressed to his ear. No, it couldn't be true. But the doubt, the one he'd buried, clawed its way back to the surface. He found Eva in the library. Curled in the window seat with a book, she looked up, smiling. Hey, I was just reading about, are you Jason Caldwell's niece? The smile died. Her face went pale. Julian, I can explain. It's heart shattered. So it's true. Yes. But not the way you think. Not the way I think. His voice was sharp, cutting. You lied to me. About everything, no. She stood, her hands shaking. I didn't lie. I do have gaps in my memory. But yes, Jason is my uncle. And yes, I worked for Harmony Trails. But I didn't come here to spy on you. Then why did you come? Because I was running from him? Her voice broke. He used me, Julian. For years, told me I was helping people when I was just part of his machine. When I found out the truth, I tried to leave. He threatened me, controlled me. I escaped, and he's been hunting me ever since. Julian's fists clenched. How do I know you're not lying right now? Tears streamed down her face. Because if I wanted to hurt you, I would have already done it. I had access to everything. Your files, your accounts, your plans. And I touched nothing. Prove it. She stared at him, devastated. I can't. You either believe me or you don't. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Julian's voice was cold. Get out, Julian, please. I said get out. Her shoulders shook. She walked past him, stopping at the door. I love you, she whispered. Even if you don't believe anything else, believe that. Then she was gone. Julian sank into the chair, his head in his hands. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. But trust, once broken. It was almost impossible to rebuild, and he had no idea if he'd just protected himself or destroyed the only real thing he'd ever had. That night, alone in the dark, Julian made a decision. If Eva was telling the truth, she was in danger. If she was lying, he needed proof. Either way, he couldn't let her go. Not yet. He picked up his phone and made a call. I need you to find someone. Because one way or another, he was going to uncover the truth, even if it killed him. Julian found her 3 days later, not at a hotel. Not hiding, she was at Caldwell Global's headquarters, walking in voluntarily. His investigators' photos showed her entering the building. Head down, shoulders hunched, defeated. Julian's heart stopped. She'd gone back. He arrived within the hour. Storming past security, taking the elevator to the executive floor, he found Jason Caldwell in his office, smug and composed. "Where is she?" Jason smiled. "She came back. Like I always knew she would." "You're lying, am I?" She realized the truth, Julian. That family is thicker than whatever fantasy you sold her. Julian's fists clenched. "If you've hurt her, I haven't laid a finger on her. She's here of her own accord, signing documents as we speak, transferring assets, completing what she started." Julian's blood roared in his ears. He turned and ran. He found her in a conference room, alone, pen in hand, staring at papers spread across the table. "Eva," she looked up, and her eyes were hollow. "You shouldn't be here." "What are you doing?" She looked back at the papers. "What I should have done from the start? Ending this?" Julian crossed the room, slamming his hand on the table. "By giving him what he wants? By protecting you." Her voice cracked, and she finally looked at him. Really looked at these documents transferred everything Jason claims I owe him. Assets, rights, testimony. If I sign, he leaves you alone. Your company. Your reputation. Everything. Eva, no. He has proof, Julian. Fabricated, but it'll hold up. Emails, transactions, all linking me to corporate espionage. If I don't sign, he destroys you. Takes everything you've built and burns it to the ground. Julian's jaw clenched. "I don't care, I do." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You saved me. You gave me hope when I had none. You made me feel like I was worth something. I won't let him take that from you. So you sacrifice yourself instead?" "Yes, no." Julian grabbed the papers and tore them in half. Eva gasped. "What are you doing?" "Choosing you." His voice was raw. "I don't care about the company. I don't care about the money. I care about you. And I'm not letting you walk back into that prison. Julian, he'll ruin you. Let him try." The door opened. Jason Caldwell stood there, fury radiating from him. "You just made a very expensive mistake, West." Julian turned, his voice like ice. "Touch her again, and I'll make sure every agency, every journalist, every whistleblower knows exactly what you've been doing in Southeast Asia. I have evidence. Real evidence. Not the fabricated garbage you're peddling." Jason's face darkened. "You're bluffing? Try me." The silence was deafening. Finally, Jason smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You think you've won? But this isn't over." "Yes," Julian said. "It is." He took Ava's hand and walked out. They didn't speak until they were outside. Standing in the rain again, just like the night they met, Eva looked up at him, tears mixing with raindrops. "You just gave up everything for me?" "No," Julian said softly, pulling her close. "I finally found everything." She buried her face in his chest. And he held her like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting. "I'm broken," she whispered. "So am I. What if we can't fix each other?" He tilted her chin up, his eyes fierce and tender at once. "Then we'll be broken together." She kissed him, soft, desperate, real. When they pulled apart, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "No more running." "No more running," she agreed. They stood there in the rain. Two scarred souls who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to fight for the light. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust would take time. Healing would take longer. But they had something stronger than perfection. They had choice. And sometimes, that's all love needs to survive. Julian took her hand, and together, they walked away from the past and into whatever came next, because fate had brought them together. But it was choice that would keep them whole. The end.